Okay, this is the PowerPoint for the major project paper and presentation for 770 Leading Sustainable Organizations. So for your major project paper, there are 4 sections. Please pay careful attention to the page limits, the formatting requirements, and the expectations for each section that I'll be describing over the next several minutes. The first section is called your executive summary and recommendations. It should be no more than 3 pages long. It starts with your executive summary, which should be a paragraph or 2. Think of this as the abstract for your study. Then I'd like you to identify, describe, and rationalize 2 to 3 practical recommendations. In doing so, please describe what it will take for the organization to implement each of your recommendations, why each one makes sense, and then also please double check that your recommendation flows from your sustainability audit. In other words, please don't make recommendations that fall outside the purview of the material that you're addressing in your analysis. And please be pretty linear about this. So you've got your executive summary, then you'll have your first recommendations, say what it is, again rationalize it, then move to the next one, say what it is, rationalize it. The second section is really the meat of your paper. This is the sustainability audit. This should be no more than 17 pages long. You're going to organize this section by the sustainability and action units, at least using the headers that relate to each of those mini sections, if you will. So I want to see general as a header. Again, it can be centered, it can be to the left, I don't really care as long as you've got a header. And then your analysis of the material that you gathered for that general section. Unit 1, and then I want to see your analysis of the material that you gathered for that unit, and so on. The sustainability audit is really an evidence-based analysis. It is absolutely not a summary of the data from your sustainability and action units. Absolutely not. There is no way that you could, in 17 pages, summarize everything that you've gathered, all of the data that you have in those sustainability and action units. Instead, what I want you to do, not describe, not summarize, but rather analyze and evaluate the data that you gathered. So some of the techniques that you might use to accomplish this, you might decide to use comparison and contrast, where you've got the theory or whatever Lawler and Worley were talking about versus what you found in your organization. Maybe organization A, your organization, versus an organization that we studied in one of the cases. Maybe the organization in the past versus the organization in the present. And remember, with compare and contrast, compare is what's in common, contrast is what's different. You might also decide to evaluate or judge. So look at the value of what you're observing. Can you say whether what your organization is doing, let's say with respect to managing performance or its reward systems, is it right? Is it wrong? What are the benefits? What are the deficits? What are some considerations that you think the organization needs to ponder? Also, interpretation. What does all the information mean that you've gathered? So again, this is a very different process than simply summarizing or describing or reiterating what you had gathered for those sustainability and action units. This is the actual analysis. In every way, I want you to make a judgment call. So, what does the organization's history suggest? Is the organization using the right criteria? Is it using the right structure? Is it using the right work systems? Is it managing its performance appropriately? What about those reward systems? Are they any good? How about managing talent? What about leading? In other words, I want you to look at everything and tell me, what are they doing well? What are they not doing well? What should they be doing differently? What are they currently doing that's, boy, it's light years ahead of other people, etc., etc. Is what they're doing, is it really sustainable from a triple bottom line perspective? Does it seem to align with what Lawler and Worley are suggesting? If not, how not? And so on. Once you've got your paper drafted, my suggestion is that you go back, read each paragraph that you've written, and ask yourself if each of those paragraphs answers the "so what" question. And by that, what I'm really trying to get you to do is to avoid, again, just simply summarizing or describing. So let's say that you've written a lovely paragraph describing how your organization assesses its stakeholder management. Okay, well, you've got that lovely description. So what? What I really want to know is what the organization doing? Is it good for the organization? Is it good for the stakeholders? Is there a way that the organization might improve? What should it do? Why should it do that? Again, and I know I'm hammering on this point, but it's critical. Don't simply reiterate or rewrite what you wrote in response to the Sustainability in Action units. Section 3 is your references. So Section 1 was your executive summary and recommendations. Section 2 is the audit. That's your analysis. Section 3, this is where you put your references. And for this, I want you to use APA documentation style. You can find this on our D2L site. I also have the link listed here. This is the handout that UWGB has prepared that talks about APA style. Now, I don't care that your whole paper conforms to APA style. I'm only concerned that the references do. Note that your paper must include at least 10 distinct references or sources. You might also call them citations. So if you imagine that references page, if you were to number the sources or the references, there have to be at least 10. No fewer than 4 of those have to be peer-reviewed journal articles. You should use your university library resources to find these. Do not expect that you would somehow type in your organization's name into your university's electronic database and discover good peer-reviewed journal articles. That's unlikely. Instead, what you're looking for are topics. So, for example, you can find good peer-reviewed journal articles that talk about performance management. You can find good peer-reviewed journal articles that talk about different kinds of organizational structures. You certainly can use articles that I've shared with you throughout the semester. For example, Cares on the Folly of Rewarding Kelly's in Praise of Followers. Anything that I would have posted is fair game for you to use. You can also use your organization's website if that's appropriate. You can reference the interviews that you conducted. It's not important that you list interviewee names. Instead, just list their titles, and then don't use their names anywhere in the paper. It's not important that I know the names at all. Now note that 10 citations is really the floor. It's the bottom. This is a graduate level paper, and my expectation is that you will in fact do much more than just the minimum. And you'll see here that if you want at least A level, what I would call A level, you need at least 20 citations / references sources. Again, the number of items that you have on your references page. The appendices. First and foremost, you'll have your sustainability and action units. These should be, if I ask questions, if I asked you to augment something in the midterm progress report, I expect you to have done that. That's what should appear in the sustainability and action. You need to have answered all of the questions for general and then units 1 through 10. Please do that in the order that I gave them to you. Please do it exactly in the same way that I presented to you. That way it's easiest for me to check and make sure that you've addressed all of the questions. Make sure that the questions are listed before your answers. If you feel that a particular question doesn't apply, don't just skip it or leave it blank. Please explain exactly why you think it does not apply to your organization. Additional appendices could include, if you have a publicly traded organization, some part or all of the 10K, other supporting materials, tables, exhibits, anything the organization may have given you that you think is relevant. Formatting, pretty straightforward. Double spaced, pages numbered, 1-inch margins all around, 12-point Times New Roman font. The length of the first 2 major sections together should be no more than 20 pages. Outside of that, you'll have a cover page, you'll have a table of contents. When you do the table of contents, Please make sure that you do this using the word feature that automatically generates the table of contents. Do not hit the period dot all the way over to some point and then you manually put a page number in. Please use the utility that allows you to automatically generate a table of contents. If you're not sure how to do that, just type into Google something like automatically generate a table of contents in Word, and you'll be able to find some easy, straightforward tutorials that will tell you how to do that. Your references, those do not get included in the 20 pages, and then your appendices, same deal. The paper is due no later than December 15th at 11:59. Please submit it to the Dropbox. Next, the major project presentation. For this, you're going to be doing a PowerPoint, a Prezi, a slide rocket. It should be no less than 20 slides, no more than 25 slides, not including your cover slide. The text should be never smaller than 18-point font. Please make your presentation aesthetically pleasing, professional, and creative. It's unlikely that you would record any narration to go with your presentation because the file will just get really huge. So anything you want is just got to show up in that PowerPoint, Prezi, or Slide Rocket. It could be on the slides themselves or in the notes section. You can include links to things on the internet. All of that is perfectly good. The information that you provide in this presentation should be substantive. Don't try to include every single piece of information from your analysis, and certainly not from your sustainability and action units. That would simply be way too much information to try and cram into 20 to 25 pages. I'm looking for your discernment, your judgment call as to what's most important. You will want to describe and review each of your recommendations, and then likewise your analyses. Go for the high points, go for the most interesting, go for the most valuable information. Don't try and capture your entire analysis. It's not necessary. Don't include your references. If your classmates want to know what your references were, they can reach out to you and ask for that information under separate cover. You will post your presentation to the discussion board by December 7th. You won't be submitting it to a Dropbox. If you did that, I would be the only one who could see it. Instead, each of your classmates will be reviewing your presentation, so you'll post it to the relevant discussion board. During December 8th through the 14th that week, each of you will be reviewing everybody else's presentation and providing feedback, and I will give you a mechanism for doing that. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can send me an email, but frankly, it's probably easier to have a phone call or a Skype call. If you want to do that, not a problem at all. Please send me an email and we'll find a mutually agreeable time for that phone call or Skype call. Thanks very much.